A special welcome to another wonderful edition of The Desk on Global Television. It's a delight to have you join us this evening as we look at pertinent issues from the national dailies, the headlines. What are the papers saying today? What is worth talking about from the whole stories on the paper? What we do is we sieve the papers to know the topics that are really topical and worthy of discussion. My name is Ramsey Enoch Agbo, and of course, this evening I will be joined by my guest. Of course, we are always here to talk like a journalist, and exactly what it is this evening. Congratulations to the KB schoolgirls who have regained freedom, but then a lot of people are asking questions. How did it really happen? Was it a negotiation? Did the bandits freely release them? If that's the case, why were they abducted in the first place? These are issues and, of course, are topical headlines that we will be talking about. Then, have you heard that Amopitan, the newly elected INEC chairman, has said, well, if I wouldn't do anything at all, I will ensure there is no rigging and vote buying. What do you think about that? Fantastic, right? Okay, you'll be hearing different perspective to that story today on The Desk. But apart from that, have you given it a thought? Why the People's Democratic Party have different factions? If you ask me, should I say 2, 3 factions? Well, the bottom line is that there are factions in the People's Democratic Party, and the weaker faction is saying INEC should nullify the convention held in Oyo State, Ibadan to be specific. That is where Turaki was appointed as the duly elected or appointed chairman of the People's Democratic Party. Moving away from there, we'll also look around at issues around 2027, of course. And don't forget that a whole lot is going on. We will be able to talk about just little. But then, what do you think about having an area surveillance in all the parts of the country because of the high rate of kidnapping, the high rate of abduction, which has been very rampant in a few days? Should I say a few weeks or some months now, or since 2015, anytime you want to fix it, it's all correct. But the bottom line is, do you think it's worth it for us to have area surveillance in the whole country to fish out terrorists and, of course, people who are sponsors? I don't know how that could be done. But then there is an instruction coming from the #1 citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria saying it is going to be time for area surveillance to be carried out or to be on in Kebbi, Niger, of course, Kwara State and other parts of the country, but then he's particular about troubled area at the moment. After this break, when we return, I would introduce my guest to you, and we will hit the road running with the conversation on The Desk of this evening. Stay with us. The desk is big enough to contain all of us right here today. Welcome back from that break. Of course, we are getting into the discussion right now, and we would begin from one that is very, very important. All the discussion tonight is important this evening. But then, let me introduce my guest to you right here. We have Comrade James Ezema. He is a journalist and, of course, a political and public affairs analyst. It's good to have you join us on the program this evening, James.
Thank you, and good to be here this evening.
Well, let's get started as we wait for our next guest to appear on the program. He's going to be joining us very soon. He's already in the building. But then, let's get to look at one very important issue right now that Nigerians are concerned about, Nigerians are interested in. And that's the issue that has to do with the situation in the country at the moment. First and foremost, we need to look at some major issues, beginning from this very particular one. 2027, I will stop rigging. Vote buying, Amopiton vows. This is a vow. You know, when somebody said, well, I'm making a vow right now, some people want to lift up their hands. I'm making a vow. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to be standing for. What do you think of the newly elected? Let me tell you, in case you don't know, he's a senior advocate of Nigeria. That is,
and the first senior advocate
the first son to ever be in that position. And you know, the integrity already of the judiciary is online, as it has to do with elections in Nigeria, where you hear, well, we didn't vote for them. The court gave them the office and all of that. They never knew that it was based on evidence and whatever. But Amopiton is saying vote buying and rigging election will become a thing of the past. And he said, I'm making a vow about that. How do you feel? You're excited, right?
Well, I don't think I can say I'm excited because we have had people who have been elected to give us good governance in Nigeria, and they went to, on their day of swearing in, you know, they give us their words that they are going to uphold the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But we have not seen a country where such vows are kept. So it is very difficult to now believe that somebody that has just vowed, the person that swore on oath when he was taking office, swore an oath to, you know, keep whatever that is contained in the Constitution. But some of them find it difficult to do so. And then you are giving us a vow. You see, I have problem with people that make promises, because this is not a campaign period, and you are not campaigning for...
He's not a politician.
Yes, you are not campaigning for to be voted. You're already an INEC chairman. What we should be hearing from you is what you have done, not promises or what you are going to do. What you are going to do, no matter how good and wonderful they may appear, you cannot replace what is done. And then it is what you actually do that people should be interested in, not promises. We have had promises in the past. Have any one of them kept the promises? So let us begin to, people who are in public office should begin to, you know, reason, and in a manner that they should not continue to make us look as if we are unintelligent, we don't know what we are doing and things like that. How can I be clapping because somebody vowed to stop rigging? You don't vow.
Are you not concerned, Comrade James, are you not concerned that elections in Nigeria in the past has been marred with rigging and recently vote buying? You told us here on this platform that one of the off-cycle elections that was conducted, that people were clapping.
Anambra election,
you said,
is synonymous with vote buying.
You are saying it again.
Yeah, well, of course, the EFCC showed us pictures of those who they arrested for buying vote. I think what I should be hearing from the INEC chairman is that those people who are arrested for vote buying are being prosecuted. That is what I should be hearing. It's not promises or I will stop. How can you stop just by verbal statement when you have people that you should have used to show that you are serious by that the DSS and the EFCC and the rest of them arrested in Anambra? You have not brought them to court telling us that this is what I am doing to stop the vote buying or whatever thing that mar our election. So let us begin to see what the INEC chairman is doing. That's the only way we can begin to say, okay, let us clap for him. I can't clap for because someone somewhere made a promise. People have made promises before. Is there any election INEC chairman that came to the office that did not promise to stop election rigging? Is it still the court not deciding for us who won or who did not win an election? That's the problem that we are having. So we should be celebrating actions, celebrating results, not promises. Promises are not meant to be kept in Nigeria.
But don't you think it is possible to stop rigging and vote buying in Nigeria?
It is very, very possible to stop vote buying. It is very possible to stop rigging. It is very possible to do things like as is done in a civilized society. But the thing is, the human factor, are we ready as human beings, as Nigerians, as citizens, as appointees of government, and as electoral umpire to do what is right and what should be done without biases, without being influenced, without being cajoled, without being blackmailed, without being coerced into doing what you know that within your conscience is not correct? So these are the questions that we should be asking. Let the current INEC chairman, he has made enough promises to us and he has kept our hopes high. You know, remember that Professor Mahmoud Yakub, he gave the immediate past INEC chairman, he gave us high hopes that they were going to transmit election results real time. But unfortunately on that day, there was a glitch. So I don't know how you want to record. Promises are no longer what we should be hearing from some of these our leaders and appointees of in offices. What you should be doing is delivery. Deliver and we will clap for you. But promises, no.
But you were the one that mentioned it, that this is the first time we are having a senior advocate of Nigeria being the INEC chairman.
But that does not translate to assurance that things will be done differently until we see it. We have seen people. This is the only country where professors supervise the rigging of election. It is something, you see, professors, when they get students who manipulate during examinations, they expel them. But in Nigeria, we see professors rigging election in the country continually. We see it happening. Because when a professor has supervised the rigging of an election, how did you know that he supervised a rigged election? It's the courts that will now tell you that this election was rigged, and then because of the manipulation that occurred, the candidate that was declared by INEC cannot be the candidate that have won the election, and they will declare who won the election, and that tells you that somebody somewhere who is either the INEC chairman, who is a professor always, and then the returning officer, always a professor. So if these people are the ones supervising the election and election are still being rigged in Nigeria, then I don't know how we are going to just because a promise was made and then we start clapping. No, I will not join in that bandwagon clapping. What I want to hear is I am now prosecuting those who were caught in Anambra buying votes. I am prosecuting them as a way to tell you that I am getting this thing done. But we're now here.
But you know he's a sire. He's a legal practitioner.
Sure.
You don't just suspect someone that he's doing a particular thing and you start, of course, condemning or prosecuting the person. Maybe an investigation is going on, all right?
I think that's what he should be telling us, that those who were caught in Anambra, that we saw their pictures.
Allegedly.
Yes, that we saw their pictures, that there's allegation that they were buying votes or selling votes or whatever. That these people are under investigation because I want to stop rigging. And that sounds like is something that I will, most Nigerians who want to hear that, oh, I am working on this thing, and I want to make sure that anyone who is involved, who has been confirmed through this investigative process to have been involved in this vote buying, no matter how highly placed, will be brought to book. Then that's what we want to hear. It's not a promise of what you are going to stop in 2027 when the one that just happened, you have not done anything about it. So let us begin to deal with issues as it's supposed to be. Now, if we want to solve our problems as Nigerians, we must solve them, by ourselves, not any other way. And then we should show that seriousness, show that commitment, show the readiness to do things differently, and then we will go. The Nigerians, we know what is right to be done. We know what is good. We know the proper thing to be done. But we don't just do it because it does not really favor our interests.
What is the proper thing that one should do to stop rigging and vote buying? Because I asked you, you said it's possible. Let's assume Abupiton is listening right now.
First of all, we'll start with our laws. You see, one of the major challenges we have in Nigeria is that we like to have everything written in laws. If the law is not written, in fact, even the one that is written is being manipulated by our politicians. So how much less if the law is not clear? So all the ambiguities that has to do with electronic transmission of results should be removed. Let us know that electronic transmission of results is something that is now legal. That is one. Two, the amendment of the Electoral Act or the Constitution must contain that INEC guidelines are part of the laws, because this is one of the things that the court ruled in 2023. That the INEC guideline cannot be law. No, but they will have to now write it in black and white, either in the Electoral Act or in the Constitution, that INEC guideline is equal to, it has a force of law. So that if you are a candidate in an election, or you're a political party in an election, if you did not follow the guideline of INEC, you can be disqualified. Whatever outcome that comes outside of the guideline should not be taken to have complied with the law. And then we have to also move a step, getting the law amended, that clearly empowering INEC or creating an electoral offences commission that will be in charge of prosecuting electoral offenders. Then we will now be talking about free, fair, credible election. Then we have also every returning officer whose election is overturned by the court should be tried. So you cannot return a result that the court upturns, and then you are still walking free on the streets, and then people are just clapping for you for having done us no good. So those people whose election has been overturned by the courts should be made to answer. So these are the things. There are certain things we have to now begin to take seriously in the laws. If not, we'll just be telling stories and giving rhetorics, this kind of rhetorics about, we have had enough of promises, and what will the current INEC chairman tell us that Professor Yakub did not tell us about electronic transmission of
results? But people could be different.
It did not work.
But people could be different. Don't you think so?
Yes, people could be different, but let us see it in the workings. Let's see the difference in the workings,
not in the saying.
Not in the promises, not in the vows. Let's see the difference in the workings. Let your workings show. Some of us who didn't like mathematics before, they will tell you that you should show your workings. It's not just the answer. Show how you got it. Follow the steps. And the steps is the one that you have now. How are you handling that one? That we had allegations of vote buying. How are you handling it? That will tell us how you will handle 2027 7 elections. So we should grow and get to the point that where the popular candidate should win. In 2015, a popular candidate won, and the incumbents congratulated the person that won and said, there's no need for me to head to courts because you won, you actually defeated me. And that's what we should be seeing with our elections. So that, do you know how much money it takes for these people to go through the litigation process for election? At the end of the day, when they finish their processes, they would have added to their campaign spendings. Then when they get to office, the next thing they do is that they want to get a return on investment, because it's an investment. You have spent money to get into office, and
so,
you have to recoup.
What we have now, you're trying to say what we have now is purely business and not governance. Is that what you're saying?
What we are talking about is Electoral Act amendment to give us that which should be seen to initiate a process towards a credible outcome in our elections, especially in 2027. Otherwise, we cannot be here and be saying that because a promise was made, we should now start rejoicing. No.
Oh, okay. Because a promise was made, you think we should start rejoicing. Is that what you're thinking? Well, at this point in time, we are going on a quick break. After this break, when we return, of course, we will have Uyi Agbomofuegbe join us on the conversation. But Dad, is he going to be of a different opinion? Or he will say, well, the vow, he's going to clap for the vow. Let's see. After this break, that will be confirmed. Stay with us. Welcome back. Joining us on the conversation right here, like I told you before we went on break, is Uyi Agbomofuegbe. It's good to have you join us on the conversation.
Always my delight, Ramsey.
Well, I know we've talked about this before, but then more assurance coming from Amupitan. Now it is not a promise but a vow.
Right.
That he will stop if he can't do anything at all as INEC chairman. He will stop rigging and vote buying. What's your take about that?
You know, like I said on Global Morning today, Ramsey, it's quite an audacious, if you like, challenge that he has given himself right now. It's quite a huge task. Naturally, many Nigerians and those watching from even beyond our country would say, well, this is the usual talk that you find with people in that position at this point, since they are still new in the saddle, that kind of thing, which is again understandable. However, it will appear that he's coming with a different kind of perspective. The thinking probably is not the same as what we had seen, which interestingly and again makes his work more demanding, because the worst he can do is to move INEC beyond the point where he met it. That's the worst he can do. He can't leave INEC the way he met it. And worse still, they can't leave INEC worse than he met it. So, I mean, head or tail, he has to move INEC from this point to a better point. That's what it means. But to talk about the specifics of curbing or curtailing, vote buying, and rigging, you must first ask yourself, what are the factors that drive these monsters? Because that's what they are. You can't have rigging and vote buying, even though one is actually intertwined with the other, in an electoral process, and still come out to say it was free, fair, and credible, right? So what is he going to do to deal with this, having understood what exactly he's dealing with? Because first of all, vote buying is a system, is a mechanism. Hopefully the prof understands that. Vote buying has even evolved. Before now, there was a modus for it. We saw that in 2011. By 2015, it has changed. By 2019, we saw the metamorphosis. By 2023, it was a different conversation altogether. When you look at those 3 cycles of general elections in Nigeria, you are asking yourself, are we in for something worse in 2027 if something drastic is not done and done early enough? Which now adds another layer of question. What is the machinery, or what are the measures that the Independent National Electoral Commission, under the leadership of Professor Josh Amukbiton, will put or have put in place already to ensure that this is curtailed? This is a country where you have politicians, most of whom are not law-abiding. We've seen that. It's not, I mean, it's public knowledge. You have politicians with a lot of money in their pockets. You have politicians who are more bent on winning an election than they are about rule of law, love for country, and playing fair. There's a country where you hear things like winner takes all, win by all means, take the ballot box and run with it. What else? Our party is going to grab power, is going to capture power, is going to recapture power, and things like that. So when you have those sort of rhetorics, it's only natural that you're going to have a system that is neck deep in these sort of problems, which is one, vote buying, the second, ultimately, which is, of course, rigging of all kinds. But again, while on the one hand, we're wishing Professor Amukbiton the best in this task that the country has saddled him with, because that's the least, in any case, that is expected of him, we must also appreciate the fact that he needs interagency collaboration to make this happen. He needs to work with several other agencies, from the National Orientation Agency to media houses, radio, television, print, web, and all of that, to security agencies, and all of that. And then, of course, he also needs the support. In fact, he needs substantial support from the Parliament, which is the National Assembly, whether it's the Senate or the House of Representatives. The good thing is, I would say the chairman of the commission, has a head start. Head start in the sense that the president has also made a commitment on his part, saying that, look, you've been saddled with this task, you've been commissioned, and you have now been mobilized. Whatever support you need to ensure that you discharge your obligation to the letter, I'll be here to give it to you. Which means that in the final analysis, Professor Amukbiton will have no excuse to fail in this onerous task that's been placed on his shoulder.
All right. I think that's well spoken. Number one, he's a senior advocate of Nigeria and the first ever, like James and I were talking about before you came on board. He is the first to be in that position. Then there is issue of integrity.
Right.
Now, it's as if judges are trying to make a decision. On one of the papers, it says judges seek to wash hands of pre-poll cases.
You see, those have also been very thorny issues in Nigeria's democratic experiment, as they call it. I'm not so sure we're still experimenting. This is almost 3 decades down the line. But quite frankly, there has been very palpable concern around how that we now have a very prevalent, disturbing culture where if Ramsey and Uyi were to go to the polls to contest for whatever office it is, the chances that it will end in litigation are very high. In fact, we can almost take everything we have to say, look, the outcome will end in litigation. So it raises the question of, can we not have closure at the poll? Can we not say we've counted the ballots, the results are in, here are the numbers, Uyi is the winner, Ramsey is the winner. Can we not have that? Must we end up going to court? Now, several factors have been highlighted to be responsible for that sort of practice. There are those who believe that it is the absence of patriotism on the part of politicians and the entire political class that's responsible. There are those who say that, look, it's because we have over time evolved the system in such a way that some people who really don't care about the interest of the country, who are not concerned about our democracy and the health of governance and political stability, that always sort of orchestrates those sort of events that make it possible for electoral outcomes to end in litigation. But you see, again, that's where the job of Professor Amugbeton becomes even more interesting and ambiguous on many levels. Because he must now be able to look at what the problems have been since 1999, because one thing leads to another. It's almost as if there are joints for every election. So you have 1999 election, you jump 4 years down the line to 2003, there's a problem, you realize, then there's a link broken, you move from 2003 to 2007, another problem. So he must be able to look at those joints. He must be able to look at how we have transitioned from one 4-year cycle of elections to another 4-year cycle of elections, and be able to put together a team that can brainstorm and bring a new thinking. That's where we've had systemic problems. The thinking has really never changed. It's always been the same thinking. So he's got to have a new thinking. He can't bring the same thinking to the table now as we had seen in previous elections. He can't think like Professor Jega today, with due respect to Professor Jega, who in his own right had done an amazing work, regardless of all the controversies that trade the elections in his time. He can't think like Professor Mahmoud Yakubu now, because times have changed as well. And time will change again between now and the next election in 2027. So he must understand how that there have been shifts in the dynamics. So he must understand that. So he must now understand that there is a reason elections always end up in courts. So his task is to identify what the reason is, and then more importantly, be able to fix it. For example, why is it that we bring in results at the Collation Center in front of INEC National Chairman? Leaders and representatives of political parties are fighting over the authenticity and or otherwise of those results. That's embarrassing enough already for a country like ours, where we are supposed not to have an issue with results and things like that. How is it that we go, all of us in this, on the show tonight, we go to the same polling units and we cast our votes. And then by the results are counted right there. By the time the results are eventually announced on television and across the media, we are seeing numbers that are far, far different from what had been counted right in front of us, right under our very nose. So those are the fundamentals he must deal with. So we hope that he sits down, takes his time, be dispassionate, engage all the critical stakeholders, civil society, media, security agencies, and what have you, to ensure that we do a thorough job. But again, this is no job for a child.
Oh, all right. It's like lawyers are no longer interested in court cases anymore when it has to do with election. All right, let me get to James at this point in time. Judges are now saying You know what it means when somebody say, I wash my hand? Judges seek to wash their hands
like Pilate did.
Right.
of pre-poll cases. Can we say this is a welcome development?
You see, it is not about washing of hands or not washing of hands. What it is what it is. What it is that you cannot avoid cases coming to court or to your court as a judge.
Right.
It is not for you to decide whether a case will come to your court or not. It is the litigants that will say, okay, I want to go to court. So washing off your hands in pre-election cases, it is just like telling people that, look, don't bring cases to us. No, it is not for you to decide. It is for the person who feels cheated in the process to decide whether to approach the court or not. So as it is today, you know, what we celebrate most times in Nigeria is things that are so peripheral. You know, we celebrate peripheral matters and leave the germane issues untouched. It is not something we will begin to talk about who washed hand and who did not wash hand. A Pilate washed off his hand. Did it stop the convicting of Jesus Christ? So because you washed off your hands is not anything. At the end of the day, he still said, do with him whatever you like. That's the judgment. So you wash your hand. His blood is not in my head, but you still say, do with him what you like. You are past the judgment. So let us focus on the core issue. The core issue is that the process should be able to produce a candidate like who you said. That you don't need to start saying whether somebody won or somebody did not won. The person that won should know I won. The person that lost should know he lost. Because if the process is so open and the framework are determined, not when you get into the game, you start changing the goalposts, like what we had in the past, where INEC will be empowered to have a guideline for an election, and the court will now say no, the constitution that empowered him is not correct, that he should not have had a guideline. The guideline is just advisory. How can you say that? But these are the things these are the judgments that come from our courts. So the constitution said you are permitted to do election by law. You do this, you have to. Now, remember, INEC is not just an electoral umpire. By law, INEC is also a regulator of political parties and political activities. So you cannot just look at one side of it and be saying, no, I don't want pre-election matters to come to me. No, the political parties, good as their intention may be, but the political parties are the ones to decide whether they are going to have an internal democracy that is trustworthy enough that candidates will not be able to have any complaint after the pre-election issues. So let us face the issue. Political parties deepen internal democracy, and it is within INEC's duty to also monitor political parties to ensure that they comply with their own constitution. And then when they don't comply with their own constitution, you as a regulator, you should come in full hard on them to get this thing done. It's also like election petition, that is the election spending, the campaigns funds, and then sources of fund. All those things are things that INEC should be regulating. But internal democracy in our political parties is one of the biggest challenge that we have in free and fair election. Because these pre-election cases are even the most germane. Because when the political parties don't do things right, it will affect who becomes the candidate of the party. You remember in the past where somebody is, like in the case of Rivers State, where between Celestine Omeha and Rotimi Amechi, Amechi was claiming that he is the candidate of the party, and Celestine Omeha was claiming to be the candidate of the party. After the election, Amechi went to court And at the end of the day, Amaechi, who did not stand personally to campaign, it was Celestine Omeha that was doing the campaign. But the court said no, the validly nominated candidate for this election is Rotimi Amaechi. And then the votes that were cast were not cast for Celestine Omeha. They were cast for the People's Democratic Party that fielded a candidate in the election. So these are the issues, how pre-election matters are one of the major challenges we are having. Imposition of candidates, most of these people, they will just impose a candidate on the people. You remember what happened in the case between the former Senate president and the other person that was supposed to be the emerge as a candidate. So at the end of the day, the thing went to court, and the court has to decide. So this pre-election matters, the judges cannot say we don't want it. Yes, you may say you don't want it in principle, you may say you don't want it as in good faith, but in real sense of it, it is the political parties that should stop these pre-election matters going to court, because if they do their things in accordance with the law and in accordance with their own constitution, nobody will be going to court for anything.
All right, nobody is excited going to court except for politicians who want to be in power by all means. Now, let's get to the statement from the Wiki blog saying the PDP convention held in Ibadan should be nullified.
All right. Again, this is becoming...
Why is James laughing?
It's becoming a bit of an amusement, Ramsey. And I'll tell you why real quick. Again, these are pre-election matters. You see, some of these issues are the reasons you see that an election is conducted in the states. Ultimately, the court will tell you such and such party did not have a candidate in that election, or cannot fit a candidate in that election. So it becomes a one-way street for the other party. So it becomes more like an advantage politically for them. As it stands right now, it's a no-brainer that the heart of the PDP is being tugged at by Wike on the one hand, and by the other group on the other hand, which we understand is, in a sense, led by the governors of Bauchi and Oyo, talking about Bala Mohammed and Sheikh Makinde, respectively. So that's the question is, was that exercise valid? Did it align with the law, whether the constitution of the PDP or the Nigerian law or whatever law it is? Because first of all, there has been the question of, was it monitored by the Independent National Electoral Commission? All right, we need to put all of this into perspective. Was it monitored by by INEC? That's number one. Number two is, which is the authentic leadership of the PDP? Is it the Wiki-backed group, where you have Samuel Ayamo as the national secretary, who again has been suspended from the other faction? Of course, they have also done their own counter suspensions, quite a series of suspension. But you see, when this happens, we can laugh about it, we can make skits out of it, and memes and all of that, and jokes. But in the final analysis, the implication really, amongst other things, is that it makes a mockery of our democracy. It makes it look like we're here to play, because political parties are key to a democratic process. It is political parties that feed candidates. It is political parties that actually determine who runs, who stands for election. Especially in a system like ours, for example, where Comrade James Ezema cannot get up tomorrow and say he wants to stand for election as an independent candidate. He has to use a special purpose vehicle, which is, in this case, a political party. So if he doesn't have a party that is well structured, a party that is focused, a party that is enjoying robust visionary leadership, how can he do that? So that's why we have all of this problem. And then it's also instructive to say that it is virtually impossible to talk about the PDP and not talk about Nyesom Wike, the Minister of the FCC. There are those who believe that it is a latitude the president has given to him that fuels his ego, that fuels this rascality. But there are also people who believe that Wike is reacting based on what has been done to him in the PDP. They said the PDP has not treated him fairly, especially from the former vice president's standpoint, Atiku Abubakar. All right, and then you're asking yourself, in what way have they not treated him fairly? They say, well, he was betrayed during the exercise that produced Atiku Abubakar as the candidate in the 2023 general election, especially by Tambuwal, the former governor of Sokoto State, who is supposed to be his political ally and so on and so forth. The question is, has Atiku not left the PDP? Has he not officially now joined the ADC? One would have thought at this point, Mr. Wike will now say, okay, we're done and dusted. My political enemy has left the party. Can we now come together as a political family and chart a new course for this party? We have not seen that happen. Add to that, the fact that even Wike himself has said without missing words that, look, going into 2027 general election, my support, my loyalty is 100% with President Bola Tinubu. So what that tells you is, even if Wike and his own faction of the PDP were to now be able to ultimately take over the leadership of that party, what does it mean for the PDP itself? Because they say that you can't, my people have an adage that says, you can't whistle through your mouth and your nostrils at the same time. You've got to choose one. So can Wike be a bona fide member of the PDP while throwing his full weight behind President Bola Tinubu? These are questions we need to ask ourselves. This is very instructive, Ramsey, because the PDP, before now at least, had been seen as the lead opposition party, one that has the capacity, one that has the experience, one that has the resources and the backbone and the nerve to be able to confront the APC at the polls in 2027. But with all of this internal wrangling we've seen that has been very consistent and persistent, does the PDP still stand a chance? Adds to that the fact that the PDP has also said that it does not really, is not interested in merger. It may consider some sort of political collaboration. So where does that leave the People's Democratic Party today? And I rest my point on this note. I've spoken to people from the PDP and off the PDP. Some of them say that, look, the PDP still has a chance to backtrack and retrace its steps, all right, get it right. And if you like, just regroup and be able to go into the polls in 2027 as a formidable political party with a united front. I've heard that time and again. I've also heard people who say that, look, what the PDP needs to do is to reinvent itself. Get new people to join, people who are interested in nation building, interested in democratic governance, people who understand what politics within the party means, people who will be able to build a new, formidable, forward-looking People's Democratic Party. There are others, finally, the third group that says, look, let's not lie to ourselves. The PDP, as we know it, is dead. What the people dead now, those who believe that they still love the party, can do is to register a new political party, build new structures, and take it up from that point.
All right. Okay, this is, in fact, I think, well, our time is running too fast. I don't know why time is running this fast. Let me get to James. I wish we could read. Oh, our time is up. All right, in just a few minutes, what, do you see the possibility of INEC dancing to the tune of Wike and his faction, his bloc?
You see, for me, it's not just about Wike or Makinde or any other person. Remember that even there's a new bloc. The new bloc is the former governor of Adamawa State, Sule Lamido's own side of it. Because the thing is not just about the Wike, the Makinde, and the and co and their own group. Because you remember that the former governor, had to go to court that he was denied form by the Makinde group. So it now tells you that the matter is beyond just the issue of the Wike group. There are other interests that are not pronounced, that you may not feel, because those ones are not coming out to make noise about their own, believe that they are shortchanged and they are sidelined and they are not part of any of these blocks. So the thing is that one of the major issues we should be looking at is, how do we now ensure internal democracy in our political parties? Why is it that politicians don't want to play by the rules? Why is it that somebody somewhere knows that, look, I am not supposed to be in this office, and you now wake up one morning and say, no, I'm the chairman of the party. The other person is now saying I'm the chairman of the party. You, as a political party, came together. You agreed that you should bury the hatchet and forge ahead with a convention. Then they brought in the Samuel Anyanwu as the national secretary of the party to smoothen the way for the convention. Even though the other party said no, we will not work with you. But they said, okay, this other person we want to work with, step down. Let us work and go to a convention and then sort this thing out once and for all. But it did not happen. Before the election, litigation started coming left, right, and center. The person that they brought back said that his letter to INEC was forged. You know, these are some of the issues. And this letter, according to the other side, they said all of us went there to submit this letter. So how did you now talk about forgery? So these are the issues. So the party itself, it has internal problem that is beyond the Wike fashion and the Makinde fashion.
I wish we have enough time. I wish we have more time. But then I think every one of you, the both of you have spoken very well, and there's no better way to have analyzed this very topical headline. All right, a very big thank you. But then I don't know if, all right, PDP is ready to put an end to the crisis in the party. But whatever they do, 2027 is not far away. Amopiton is there, and of course, the judges have made their own promise to maybe put up their wish. Many thanks for joining us on the program, Comrade James Ezema.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, thank you very much, for joining us on the desk.
My pleasure, Ramsey.
All right, this is going to be the size of the conversation on the desk this evening. The desk return again, and that is going to be on Friday. My name is Ramsey Enoch. Bye-bye for now.